At 33, Alexander Grant had everything money could buy: private jets, smart homes, global fame, but none of it brought peace. From Silicon Valley boardrooms to billionaire charity galas, Alexander had grown numb to the rehearsed smiles and shallow conversations. People saw his money, not him. Every date felt like a transaction, every handshake a veiled request. Somewhere along the way, behind the luxury and headlines, he lost trust in love, in people, in everything. One rainy evening, staring out the window of his penthouse, Alexander made a decision that stunned even himself. He would disappear, not from the world, but from his world. He wouldn't run, he'd blend, strip himself of the wealth, the recognition, the power, and see what was left. He wasn't chasing drama. He was chasing truth. And if there was even a sliver of genuine love left in the world, he'd find it with no dollar signs attached. A week later, Alex Gray was born, gone were the tailored suits and designer watches. In their place, a plain gray hoodie, steel-toed boots, and a baseball cap pulled low. He grew out his beard, added thick-rimmed glasses, and adopted a slight slouch to his confident walk. Even his voice dropped an octave, roughened at the edges like a man used early mornings and late shifts. To the outside world, he was just another underpaid janitor clocking in at one of Grant Tech's downtown offices. The irony wasn't lost on him. His first day on the job was surreal. He walked past employees who wouldn't have hesitated to grovel before him in his true form. Now, they barely looked up. Some sneered. Others ignored him completely. The air smelled of printer ink, ambition, and quiet disdain. And yet, for the first time in years, he felt real. Invisible, yes, but free. No expectations. No flattery. He mopped floors, changed trash liners, scrubbed toilets. At night, he'd return to a modest rented apartment with creaky floors and peeling paint. Every detail was intentional. He wanted the struggle to feel real. But beneath the surface of this strange new life, a question pulsed in his chest. Would anyone ever love him for who he really was? When they thought he had nothing, he was about to find out. Emily Rivera had long stopped believing in fairy tales. Life as she knew it didn't come wrapped in silk or tied with golden bows. It came in utility bills, bus schedules, and hospital visits. At 28, Emily juggled 2 jobs like spinning plates. By day, she was an administrative assistant in the downtown branch of Grant Tech. By night, she waited tables at a neighborhood diner that smelled of burnt coffee and broken dreams. And through it all, she smiled, not because life was easy, but because giving up wasn't in her DNA. Her mornings began at 5 a.m. sharp, brewing coffee in a cramped apartment she shared with her mother, whose health had been declining steadily over the past year. The walls were thin, the fridge groaned when it ran, and the shower never quite gave hot water on the first try. But it was home, and home, to Emily, was where love lived. Even when everything else was falling apart. She didn't own a car, couldn't afford one. Her sneakers carried her to the bus stop each day, where she'd huddle in the cold with her sketchbook tucked tightly under her arm. Drawing had always been her escape. In another life, she might have become an illustrator, maybe even opened a studio. But that life felt light years away. Her dreams were paused, not abandoned, just deferred. For now, her mother needed her more. At work, she blended into the background. Quiet, dependable, polite to a fault. She knew how to keep her head down and her heart open. While others gossiped by the vending machines or grumbled about deadlines, Emily offered kind words and helping hands. Not out of obligation, but because it was who she was. What no one knew was how tired she truly felt. Not just physically, but emotionally, carrying the weight of responsibility, of fear, of hope. It wore her down in invisible ways. And yet, every time she looked at her mother's smile, weak but sincere, it gave her the strength to keep going. She never expected miracles. She didn't chase love. In fact, she quietly resigned herself to the idea that real love, true, deep, selfless love, was for people who had the luxury to seek it. Then one day, while dropping off a stack of files late in the evening, she smiled at the new janitor mopping the hallway floor. And something in her world shifted, just slightly. Their first few encounters were fleeting, Casual, almost forgettable, yet oddly magnetic. Emily would pass him in the hallway carrying armfuls of reports, offering a polite good morning or hang in there, while everyone else barely noticed him. To most, he was invisible, a faceless uniform pushing a mop bucket. But not to her. She saw him, not as a cleaner, not as a man beneath her, but as a fellow human simply trying to get through the day. It was a Tuesday evening when something shifted. Emily was hurrying through the dimly lit corridor, balancing a tray of coffee and paperwork, when her heel caught on the edge of a mat. Everything flew. Cups, papers, the works. Crashing the floor with a splatter of caramel macchiato and embarrassment. She muttered breathless, "Oh no!" Alex, who had been quietly sweeping nearby, rushed over before she could gather herself. He crouched beside her, already reaching for napkins from his cart. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice calm, eyes sincere behind smudged glasses. She laughed nervously, brushing her hair from her face. "Physically? Fine. Emotionally? I'll let you know after I explain this mess to my manager." He chuckled genuinely and began helping her clean the puddle. "Don't worry. I've seen worse disasters in this hallway." One guy spilled his protein shake and nearly broke a hip. Their eyes met and something passed between them. Not sparks, not yet, but a flicker of recognition, a moment unscripted. From that day on, their late-night paths crossed more often. Short exchanges turned into longer ones, little moments stolen in the quiet hum of an empty office. He'd ask how her day was. She'd tease him for his mop technique. They laughed, shared stories. Nothing too deep, just real. Alex found himself looking forward to her voice, her warmth, her unfiltered honesty. She never once asked about his background or hinted at curiosity over his life. And maybe that's what struck him the hardest. She liked talking to him, not what he could offer. And for the first time in a very long time, that terrified him, in the best possible way. The office after hours had a strange kind of stillness, lights dimmed, keyboard silent, the air heavy with exhaustion. But for Alex and Emily, it became their little pocket of peace. Their conversation stretched longer with each passing night. What began as casual banter grew into something deeper, more intimate. They started eating together. Him with his humble brown bag sandwich, her with a microwave cup of noodles. Somehow, even the blandest food tasted different when laughter flavored the silence. Emily talked more now. She told him about her mom, her childhood in a tiny apartment filled with love, but not much else. Then one night, her fingers fidgeting with a plastic spoon, she confessed her greatest secret. "I used to draw, really draw. Portraits, cityscapes, even designed a few book covers back in college. But life," she shrugged, "life had other plans." Alex listened, heart thudding in his chest. He couldn't remember the last time someone spoke with that kind of quiet longing. It moved him in a way he wasn't prepared for. "Why'd you stop?" he asked gently. "Because dreams don't pay medical bills," she replied with a small, sad smile. That night, he couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his mind. So, the next morning, he walked into a small art store 3 blocks away and picked out the finest sketchbook he could find. Heavy pages, bound in leather. No note, just a gift, slipped anonymously into her locker with a ribbon. When she found it, she looked around in stunned silence. Her eyes welled. She clutched it to her chest like it was made of gold. From then on, she carried it everywhere. Alex knew he should tell her the truth. Every moment he spent as Alex Gray deepened the lie. But every time he saw her smile, every time she opened up a little more, he feared what the truth might do. What if she pulled away? What if everything shattered? Meanwhile, Emily felt a slow ache building in her chest. She caught herself watching him. His hands, his quiet thoughtfulness, the way he remembered small things she said. She told herself it meant nothing. After all, why would someone like him ever fall for a woman like her? She was just a girl with a sick mom, 2 jobs, and dust on her dreams. But something told her he wasn't just a janitor, and that terrified her. Alex stood outside her office door one Friday evening, clutching 2 tickets in his pocket and rehearsed his words like a nervous teenager. For days, He debated it. Was it too much? Too soon? But when he thought about the way her eyes lit up every time she talked about art, he knew he had to take the chance. "Hey!" he said when she stepped out, backpack slung over her shoulder and weariness tugging at her features. She blinked in surprise. "Still here?" "Yeah, listen, this might sound weird, but I got these tickets to an art gallery downtown. Friend of a friend gave them to me. Thought maybe you want to come." For a second, she said nothing, then a soft smile curved her lips. "You wanted to go to a gallery with you? I mean, yeah, unless you got, better Friday night plans involving instant noodles and overdue reports." She laughed, really laughed, and nodded. "Okay, yeah, I'd love that." The gallery was breathtaking, walls alive with color, quiet music humming under the buzz of conversation. Emily's eyes sparkled as she moved from piece to piece, soaking in every stroke, every shadow. Alex watched her more than the art, mesmerized by the way her soul seemed to bloom in that space. At one point, she paused in front of a painting, an abstract swirl of loneliness and light, and whispered, "This is what it feels like to hope, even when everything's dark." They ended the night on a bench outside, sipping coffee under a string of twinkling lights. The moment was intimate, unspoken, electric. Alex found his courage rising. "You ever think some people aren't who they seem?" he asked, voice low. She looked at him, intrigued. "Like people wearing masks?" "Something like that. What if someone was hiding who they were, because they wanted to be seen for the right reasons?" Emily's eyes narrowed slightly, amused. "What? Are you secretly a prince or something?" He chuckled nervously. "Something like that." She shook her head, sipping her drink. "Rich guys? Please. They're from a different world. I'd never fall for one. Too many games. Too much control. No soul." Alex's heart sank, but he smiled anyway. "Yeah," he murmured. "Totally makes sense." The days began moving faster, like sand slipping through clenched fists. Alex felt the weight of time closing in. His temporary role as a janitor was nearing its end. The board was pressing for his return, and his assistant had already scheduled private meetings to transition him back into the CEO's spotlight. But Alex found himself hesitating, lingering longer on his nightly shifts, drawn to the quiet moments he still shared with Emily. Emily, meanwhile, was navigating change of her own. Her work ethic hadn't gone unnoticed. One morning, her manager pulled her aside and offered her a promotion, more responsibility, a better salary, and her own small office. She was stunned, grateful, but distracted. As her world shifted, she realized how much her late-night talks with Alex had become a source of comfort, something more than friendship pulsed beneath their conversations. Yet she couldn't name it, or maybe she was afraid to. While they both danced on the edge of something unspoken, trouble was already brewing. Tasha, a sharp-tongued coworker with a flair for office gossip, had grown suspicious. It wasn't just the way Emily smiled at the janitor or how he spoke with such quiet confidence. It was his eyes. Tasha had seen those eyes before, years ago, in a Forbes magazine profile. It nagged at her, clawed at her curiosity, until one night, she stayed late and followed him. One online search was all it took. Alexander Grant, billionaire, CEO of Grant Tech, and currently scrubbing their office floors. Tasha's gasp echoed in the empty office, while she deliberated on what to do with the explosive secret. Alex was making a decision of his own. He couldn't keep lying. Emily deserved the truth. She had given him something no one else had in years. Genuine connection. She saw him, not the brand, not the billions. Even if it meant losing her, he had to come clean. He picked the following evening, planned every word in his head. He'd bring her coffee, meet her on the bench outside, and finally tell her the truth. But fate had other plans. That afternoon, Emily walked into the break room and froze. Two interns were whispering in a corner, their voices hushed but urgent. He's really the CEO, like billionaire level, just pretending to be a janitor. Emily's heart skipped. She stepped closer, pulse racing. "Who?" she asked, her voice barely steady. One of them turned slowly. "The janitor, Alex, or whatever his real name is." And in that instant, her world tilted. The knock on her door came just after dusk. Emily had been sitting at her small kitchen table, the untouched dinner in front of her already gone cold. Her chest was tight, thoughts tangled. When she opened the door and saw Alexander, standing there in the rain, hair damp, clothes clinging to him like guilt, her breath caught. "I can explain," he said, voice low, broken. She stared at him, eyes scanning the man she thought she knew, the janitor who shared her ramen nights, the quiet soul who listened to her dreams, the stranger who wasn't a stranger at all. "Who are you, really?" she asked, voice shaking. "Was any of it real?" "Yes, all of it." "I swear, Emily, you lied." Her voice cracked. "You chose to lie." "I didn't do it to trick you," he said quickly, stepping forward. "I did it to find something real, someone real. I was tired of being seen as a wallet with a heartbeat. You saw me, and I couldn't let that go." She stepped back, wounded. "You say I saw you, but you never gave me the chance to know who you really were. You built everything on a lie, every moment, every word. Not a lie, just a hidden truth." "That's the same thing," she whispered. He reached into his coat, pulled out a carefully folded paper, her sketch, the one she'd drawn of them sitting on the office steps, laughing under fluorescent lights. The corners were damp from the rain. The pencil lines smudged slightly, but the emotion was still etched in every stroke. "I kept this," he said, holding it out, "because for the first time in years, someone saw me. Not my money, not my title. Just me." Her eyes flicked to the sketch, then to him, trembling. She clutched the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "I don't know what to believe anymore," she said, tears glossing her gaze. And then she turned, walked away. Alex stood motionless in the rain, the sketch trembling in his hands. Emily looked back one last time, eyes full of hurt, then disappeared into the dark. To be continued. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter of this unforgettable story. You won't want to miss what happens next.